Hello there, and welcome back to the show. I'm Caroline Esterson, and for the past 30 years, I've been helping people realize that working hard isn't the problem at all. It's your strategy around it. Because early leadership doesn't just come with a manual, does it? And right now, I don't know about you, but I think work feels really messy. Hybrid working is blurring boundaries. The rules keep shifting, and complexity isn't the exception anymore. It's your job. So today we're taking one of these issues, hybrid working, that slightly weird middle ground where half of your team is in the room, half of your team is in the little squares on the screen, and you're trying to lead all of them without losing your mind. Great careers aren't built in the big moments alone. They're built in everyday choices, bold little moves, and gutsy next steps. Welcome to Little Moves, Big Careers. Let's dive straight in. We're going to really dig into how to make it work for you and your team so that it doesn't just function. It actually feels clear, connected, and productive for everybody. Because hybrid working promises flexibility, but what a lot of leaders actually experience is fragmentation. You've got conversations happening in all sorts of different places. In the office kitchen where decisions get half made over coffee whilst chatting to your cat. In Slack threads that not everyone reads. In WhatsApp groups that technically don't exist. In quick corridor chats that solve problems in 30 seconds. Boom, done. And in chat messages during Teams meetings that actually change the direction of the conversation. Meanwhile, someone else is sat at home completely unaware that any of this even happened. It's really messy. It's understandable, but that's hybrid. Energy levels feel uneven, and there are moments where people in the room share a look or a laugh, and the person on screen is suddenly outside of what's going on. And if you're new to leadership, there's often this underlying question just running in your head. Am I doing this right? Or am I just hoping for the best? So today isn't about perfect hybrid policies or complicated rules. It's actually about small leadership moves that help hybrid teams feel clearer about priorities, more included in conversations, more visible in their work, and more connected as people. Because when these things are in place, hybrid working stops feeling like a compromise and starts really becoming a genuine advantage. So let's start off by considering why it is that hybrid feels harder, particularly when you're new to a leadership role. If I'm honest, I think hybrid working amplifies all of our normal insecurities that come with stepping into leadership. Because when you're new, you're already trying to figure out things like how to build your credibility, how to balance getting the work done and supporting people, how to know when to step in or when to step back. Hybrid just adds an extra layer of complexity for you. You don't always know what's happening in between meetings. You just can't see what's going on or how people are actually feeling when they aren't in the office with you. You simply can't read the room in the same way that you could. And while that's all going on, you're probably worrying a little bit about fairness. Are people getting the equal opportunities, visibility, and support? And there's something else that often gets lost in all of this melee. And that's the opportunities for informal learning. You know what? Those things like the moment when someone overhears a conversation and learns something as a result of it, or that quick corridor chat that clears up all the confusion that you were feeling. But sometimes it's just that little bit of reassurance that you are actually on the right track. Hybrid doesn't remove these things, but it does stop them happening automatically. So, you know what? If leadership does feel slightly harder in a hybrid world, I think that makes complete sense. And I think part of the reason that it still feels slightly clunky is because it was never really designed, was it? You know, we had to pivot almost overnight to work from home. Suddenly, from the office, we're hunched over on laptops on our kitchen tables. Zoom meetings become our go-to, and whoa, that became so tiring so quickly. There were dogs barking in the background, cats pouring on keyboards, cutting you off, children wandering into meetings, Wi-Fi doing its best, bless it. And actually, you know what? We kind of made it work. The work carried on and teams adapted. People showed incredible resilience during this period. But once the crisis had passed, there wasn't that big moment where everyone paused and said, right, what do we actually want hybrid working to feel like for us? How do we design connection, collaboration, and performance in this new reality? Instead, what we did do is we just slid into hybrid working. Bit of office, bit of home, bit of habit, and frankly, a bit of hope. And because it mostly functioned, the deeper design conversation just got shelved. But just because something functions, it doesn't mean it's working as well as it could, does it? And wouldn't it be great if we could make that shift? So here's something that I'd like you to think about. Great hybrid leaders don't manage presence. They design for connection, because what people actually need hasn't changed. They still need clarity about what matters, trust that they belong, context so that they understand decisions, visibility so their work is seen, and energy so that they can stay motivated. That connection just happens differently now. And if we don't think about it, it's often absent. I find it really useful to think about creating that connection in 3 simple buckets. The first one is task connection. Do people know and understand priorities, expectations, and progress? The second is human connection. Do people feel seen, supported, and comfortable being themselves? And the third is context connection. Do people really understand what's going on beyond their immediate work? If you have a think about those, where would you say you're strong, and maybe what needs a little bit of reinforcement right now, do you think? Because when one of these drops, hybrid working starts to feel clunky. But when they're strong, it really can be brilliant. So let's get practical and talk about some small moves that can make hybrid working better, with 5 tiny little leadership moves that make a big difference. You ready? Number 1, your first move. Narrate your thinking more than you think you need to. Remember, your hybrid teams don't overhear decisions or reasoning anymore. They don't see you popping into a meeting and coming back armed with reams of notes and lukewarm coffee, ready to informally update you. They don't see you having their backs, do they, with a quiet word to a stakeholder and then returning with a clearer brief and hopefully fewer impossible expectations. So, as a leader, instead of assuming people know it, say it. Here's what's changed. Here's why it matters. And here's what I'm thinking. Because imagine working hard on something only to discover the context changed 3 days ago and no one actually told you. This leads to frustration, confidence dips, and of course, energy drains. Narrating your thinking doesn't mean over-explaining. It means making the invisible visible. And in hybrid teams, context isn't that ambient noise going on in the background anymore like it used to in the office. You need to make it intentional. Okay, moving on, move 2. Make meetings do one job well. Now, I think this is really interesting because people are very busy and we're trying to make the most of every moment, aren't we? We're trying to make every moment count. But hybrid fatigue often comes from meetings that are trying to do everything all at once. Maybe we're making them about connection, updates, decisions, problem solving, brainstorm, therapy sessions, and calendar placeholders. But when meetings outcomes blur, people leave unsure. Were they meant to contribute? Was that actually a decision I need to act on? Do I need to do something now? So pick one main purpose and say it up front in any meeting. Today's main goal is X. Because imagine joining a meeting remotely, juggling notifications, trying to read faces on a screen, and not actually knowing why you're there. Clarity isn't just about being efficient, it's actually about being inclusive too. It helps people prepare, participate, and leave with confidence. One single clear meeting purpose creates better focus, faster decisions, and far less hybrid exhaustion. Number 3, level the room. If one person is remote, they're often slightly outside the conversation, not because anyone's excluding them, but because energy, eye contact, and natural flow tend to favor the people physically together. So this is where you quietly shift from participant to facilitator. Things like inviting remote voices first, pausing before moving on, summarizing what you've heard and avoiding side conversations in the room. You don't need perfect tech to make this happen. You just need conscious inclusion. Because imagine being the one remote person watching the room laugh, nod, or move forward and not being quite sure what just happened there. That tiny feeling of being a step behind, it really does build over time. And eventually people, they just stop jumping in. But when you level the room, you're sending a powerful signal that your voice matters wherever you're working. Move number 4, build tiny visibility rituals. One of the quiet worries remote workers carry is anyone seeing what I'm doing? So visibility rituals aren't about performance. They're about shared progress. Create simple rhythms like end of week wins, what move forward updates, shout outs in team meetings. All of these help to signal the momentum and effort that's being created by your team. Silence doesn't mean that there's a lack of value and a lack of respect in what you do, but it can often feel like it. These tiny rituals close that gap. They remind people that their work is visible, appreciated, and connected to the bigger picture. And they also help you as a leader spot momentum you might otherwise miss. And that is just as important. And finally, your 5th move, protect informal moments on purpose. Connection often used to happen between the work. You know, things like the chat before a meeting, the walk back to the desks afterwards, the quick, how did that go moments. Hybrid working hasn't removed the need for those moments. It just stopped them happening accidentally. But I don't want you to think that you've got to replace that with forced fun or awkward virtual quizzes. It can just be natural moments like a quick 10-minute check-in call, a voice note that you provide to somebody, a walk and talk moment, or a moment of curiosity in a meeting where you ask a question. You know, too often we're talking about tasks. There isn't any context, there isn't any warmth. There isn't the sense of who we are beyond the to-do list because we're all under pressure. But it's no wonder that when this happens, the impact is felt deeply because connection starts to fade, trust takes longer to build, and misunderstandings grow faster. And I'm sure you've experienced moments like this. These moments of context and warmth, they matter. And they don't slow down the work. They make work smoother. And over time, you know what else they do? They create psychological safety, that feeling that you can ask, admit, challenge, and contribute without second guessing how this might be received. Now, none of these moves are big. They don't demand a lot of planning or preparation from you as a leader. It's about a shift in focus. And together, they close the invisible gap that hybrid working creates. And that's the real job of hybrid leadership. It's not about controlling where people sit, whether they're in the office or not, but it is about designing how you help them connect, not just with you, but with each other. And please be okay with what I'm about to say. You will get this wrong sometimes. You'll forget to narrate the context. A meeting will drift and someone will feel slightly outside of the loop. That's real leadership in a messy environment. What matters isn't that you're perfect. It is about noticing and adjusting the way that you do things. And it's about acknowledging it when you notice it's happened. Call it out, speak about it. That is the way that you'll learn together. So we're bringing back a couple of old favourites for you, starting with...
It's time for What Would Caro Do? Like a career agony aunt, but with less cardigan and more fire.
Because sometimes you don't need permission, you just need better advice. That's right, it's time for What Would Caro Do?
Hi, Auntie Caro. I'm about 4 months into my first leadership role, and honestly, I feel like I'm constantly firefighting. My team is hybrid, deadlines are tight, and most days I feel like I'm just trying to keep everything moving and stop things dropping. But in my last bit of feedback, my manager said I'm coming across as very task-focused and that I need to build more connection with the team. And I completely get what she means, but we're busy. Like properly busy. So I keep thinking, when am I meant to do that? Isn't focusing on the work my job? And if I suddenly start asking how everyone is feeling, won't it feel forced and a little bit weird? I don't want my team to think I don't care. But I also don't want to slow things down or become that manager who schedules pointless chats when everyone's drowning. So how do you actually rebalance this without it feeling fake?
Oh, I love this question. It's so juicy and it's coming from a place of care. That's what I like about it, not avoidance. There's confusion in there and there's worry and, you know, there's that desire to do what's right for the organization and do what's right for people at the same time. So there's lots of layers to it. But I'm going to start by saying that focus on getting things done is brilliant. It's possibly why you got promoted in the first place, because it shows that you're organized, you're reliable, and you get things done. But the tension that you're feeling isn't about doing the work instead of connecting. What I want you to think about is understanding that connection is what actually makes the work smoother. And that's the important part. Connection isn't something extra. It's actually your infrastructure, because when connection is low, it increases things like misunderstandings and energy drops. People hesitate to ask for help and you end up spending more time firefighting. So those tiny moments of connection aren't slowing the work down. They're reducing your friction points, and they don't need to be big or forced. It can just be 30 seconds at the start of the meeting, asking how people are getting on. How are they feeling? Or something like a quick message to someone asking, how's your week looking? Is there anything I can help with? A voice note after a tough deadline, acknowledging that it was tough, but congratulating them on getting through it. Asking a question if someone seems quieter than normal. For example, I've noticed you seem a bit quieter than usual. Is everything okay for you? We're not asking you to perform therapy. This is just about real acknowledgements. It's talking the things that you're actually seeing. And here's the magic bit, because when people feel seen, they communicate sooner, they solve problems faster, and they trust you more, which fundamentally makes your job easier. So don't think of this as less task focused. Think of it as your leadership task with connection fuel. Start tiny, stay natural, and remember, warmth does not need a calendar invite. You can do it instinctively. And that leads us to...
This quote has the right vibe and the completely wrong advice.
So let's fix that before someone puts it on a mug. Yes, career quote crime. And this one is a doozy.
Just need to focus on delivery right now.
Yeah, that sounds efficient. But just as we discussed in the listener dilemma, you can't achieve one without the other. You can't get great results without caring about your people. And you can't care about your people and doing a great job unless you care about the results. They work hand in hand. It's one of the biggest productivity myths in modern work, because when connection drops, work doesn't get faster. It gets harder. People start to second guess and make mistakes, and communication becomes transactional. Assumptions increase, small problems stay hidden longer, and suddenly you're not leading a busy team, you're leading a disconnected one. So think of it like this. Connection isn't what you do when the work is finished. It's what helps the work move in the first place. On hybrid terms, connection is the oil in the engine, not the extra feature. So if you've ever worried that focusing on connection will slow things down, It won't, I promise you. Done simply and naturally, it's what keeps momentum alive. So if you take nothing else from today, let it be this. As a leader, you don't need a perfect hybrid strategy. You just need to notice disconnection early. Things like the silence, the confusion, uneven participation, and low energy, these are all your signals. And your confidence as a hybrid leader doesn't come from controlling everything. It grows from noticing, trying something small and adjusting. Little moves repeated often. So if today's episode resonated, I've created a simple free resource called the Hybrid Leadership Quick Check-In. It's a 5-minute reflection with 5 questions to help you spot connection gaps and choose one small move to try this week. You can grab it in the show notes. And if this episode helped you feel a little less alone in the hybrid juggling act, please hit subscribe, because in coming episodes, we'll keep exploring those messy, real leadership moments, connection, confidence, visibility pressure, and everything in between. So until next time, make your move, even if it's tiny, especially if it's tiny.